let's just say, for example, someone they don't eat a lot of vegetables, or they eat very little vegetables, and especially those sulfur vegetables like broccoli, and their sulfation pathways get compromised. Or let's say someone's pre-diabetic, or maybe they are hypoglycemic, their blood sugar is really low, and they can't get the right amount of glucose into their cells, and now their glucuronidation pathways are not optimal. Or maybe they have that MTHFR gene polymorphism, or SNP, and they can't do that methylation pathway well. Now, that person is going to have a way different response to chemicals than someone that's eating lots of vegetables, has healthy pathways. That person, the original person, their toxic burden is going to build up over time, and the body's going to, like we talked about, store it in fat cells. They're going to have symptoms, they're going to have fatigue. Maybe someone else doesn't have a healthy microbiome diversity. They've been on lots of antibiotics, or they eat the same foods over and over again, so the microbiome doesn't get those plant fibers that help them diversify. Or let's say someone has a really sedentary lifestyle and they don't move and they don't sweat and the lymphatic system doesn't get moved. All of these things are going to increase the toxic load in the body, which is going to drive up inflammation in the body. And so these chemicals will get stuck in circulation, and over time the body will end up putting on weight to keep the toxins away from our vital organs. So what do we need for detoxification? What's our short list? So we need healthy phase 1, healthy phase 2. All parts of that funnel need to be working really well. We need lots of antioxidants from our food, from fruits and veggies. We need to make sure that our gallbladder works efficiently to contract and release that bile. We need to have a very rich microbiome. We need to make sure that we have B vitamins, sulfur compounds, glutathione, protein to provide those amino acids. We need stable blood sugar, can't be too high, can't be too low, and we need to be moving. We need to make sure that we exercise and sweat to move our lymphatics and have a regular bowel movement, which also helps us excrete the toxins. One last thing that's worth mentioning there are a unique set of chemicals that our bodies really do not detox well, and we call them heavy metals. So it's things like mercury and lead. They cannot be biotransformed very easily, and so in our bodies they just get stored, primarily again in fat, but also in bone. And sometimes we'll see women, as they go through osteoporosis and they lose bone mass, that those toxins will get re-released into circulation, and we'll see big spikes. Also, we will see one of our biggest sources of mercury is actually fish. So when a big fish eats a smaller fish, it actually inherits all of the mercury that was stored in the smaller fish. And we call this biomagnification, which means that the fish at the top of the food chain, like tuna, can have levels that are 100,000 times higher in concentration than what we would find in the water in which they swim. So it's important to know that there are certain compounds that we just want to avoid. We want to try to minimize our exposure, which actually brings me to the steps that I recommend for detoxification. So the very first step, based on these heavy metals, is to minimize exposure. I mean, honestly, it goes for all toxins, but steps like 1, 2, and 3 really need to be to try to minimize exposure as much as possible. And then we want to stabilize our blood sugar. We want to increase our antioxidants. Via superfoods, we want to eat a diverse array of vegetables to support that healthy microbiome. We want to optimize the elimination routes, so to speak, through daily bowel movements, hydration, through movement and sweat. You can also do sauna or salt baths or dry brushing as well to move your lymph. And then we really want to optimize those critical nutrients, that glutathione, the B vitamins, and protein, to make sure that we have the raw materials necessary to detox. And always with detoxification, I really think it's important, if you're not familiar with detoxification, to work with someone that can help walk you through the process, because there's many different ways to detoxify. Sometimes we can detoxify with supplements. Sometimes we can detoxify with strictly herbs or homeopathy, or just with food and diet. We can even detox energetically. And so there's not a right or wrong way to detox. It really is based on what your environmental load is, what your symptoms are, and what your body can tolerate.